Hey fellas, got out of the Mario movie late last night and I gotta say it was just amazing. It's genuinely about as perfect of an adaptation as you can get. And like so many people were worried about this movie and like I get it, there's so much hype and it's coming out of Illumination of course. There's just so much riding on this movie that it's so easy to just start inherently thinking it's going to be average at best. There's no way this movie's gonna be as good as we want it to be, you know? But I really think this movie taps into something you rarely see out of movies anymore, in that it's really not trying to tell a story. It doesn't really even have a whole lot of dialogue, relatively speaking. Like, there's some parts of the movie where I felt like, wow, Mario hasn't had a single minute to rest or even, like, talk in quite a while. And I think if people come out of this movie feeling disappointed, this is the angle they'll criticize it. But I think the relative lack of story is part of what makes the movie so good. It's a Mario movie. It's not getting bogged down in some drawn out, likely predictable and unoriginal plot. It's all about having fun, memorable scenes. And I'm not trying to say, oh, it's okay for the plot to be weak just because it's a Mario movie. I'm saying there's more than one way for a movie to be good. I made some kind of weird connections about this in my head. Like, for example, you know how Snow White, it's got that scene where the dwarves wash their hands for 4.5 minutes? Or how about that bit where the dwarves are dancing with Snow White for 4.5 minutes? Or, I don't know, that 3-minute scene where the dwarves are all asleep? Like, they quite literally do not make them like this anymore. Disney wouldn't dare put out a movie with as little plot as Snow White today. But I don't think people would argue with me when I say the original Snow White is gonna be way better than whatever boring story they come up with in the live-action version they're making. Some of Disney's oldest, most iconic moments fundamentally don't serve a narrative in the same way a modern movie would. This 100-year-old movie is still appreciated to this day not because of its story, but because of its charming characters who do charming things, and the music composed to complement those charming things. Fundamentally, that's all you need to have a good time. Fast forward to the Mario movie, and perhaps the Snow White comparison is a bit odd at first, but I think every scene is aiming to be first and foremost fun and iconic. Early on, there's a few scenes to set up some themes and introduce the characters, but the second the movie gets going, it does not stop. Now, this is a spoiler-free review, so I don't want to spoil anything, so if you don't want to know who the bad guy is, you may want to close your ears for a second, but it's Bowser, he's the bad guy, they've got to stop him from committing bad deed. Wow, who would have thought that? And of course there's some fun details here and there about that, and what small themes are set up early on are paid off very nicely in cute ways. But this isn't really a plot you can spoil, and the movie doesn't pretend it's anything more than it is. It doesn't waste half of its runtime with some focus-tested plotline that just comes off forced at best anyway. You're here to see a fun Mario movie, and that's what you get. It's a non-stop ride of fun scenes that are beautifully animated and choreographed, filled with love taken straight from the source material that any fan of any era of Mario can appreciate. It's got iconic music taken from and remixed from the original games across the entire series history, old and new. Like, you can tell Miyamoto had a hand in this. No other video game adaptation, and really very few other movies in general these days, put any effort into their soundtracks. But it was a constant joy to hear them implement so much Mario music across the entire movie. Compared to, say, the Sonic movie, which almost has no recognizable music whatsoever in its entire soundtrack, and some made-up story that has nothing to do with the source material. The second Sonic movie is such an improvement because it actually takes stuff from source material. Too bad it went for a 2-hour runtime with a bunch of irrelevant and largely contrived scenes instead of honing in on the blueprints that made the series so beloved to begin with.
Did you?
Now, I'm not trying to trash on the Sonic movies too much here. I think people could do with understanding you can like one thing without bringing something else down, and also criticize something without being hyperbolic and despising it, but it's relevant to why the Mario movie is so good. But listen, not a single soul went to Sonic 2 wanting to see Sonic and Tails dancing to Uptown Funk in a Russian bar, Alvin and the Chipmunk style. And I enjoyed Sonic 2 despite those scenes, but there's not a single moment in the Mario movie that I'll dread watching. When I rewatch Sonic 2, there's so many moments I'm just sitting there waiting for it to be over so they can do actual Sonic things. Or gee, to stop picking on Sonic, same applies probably even harder to like the Uncharted movie or the Ratchet and Clank movie.
Oh, that was terrible.
The core issue video game adaptation movies always face is that they're trying to broaden the appeal by adapting the source material in a way that general audiences can digest without being familiar with the original games. As though the insane popularity of the video games isn't enough, simply trusting that the source material is good enough to cast a wide net is not a concept that's running through the minds of the corporate brains at the top. But for once, we've got the original series creators' vision shining through, and I could not be happier. Also, small bit to actually talk about something I did like narratively, more so in like how characters were portrayed. Because there was some worry about like Peach's character, for example. Some people saw the trailer and went, oh man, they girl bossed her and Mario's gonna be a bumbling idiot holding her back or whatever. But they honestly really avoided just about every overdone, tired cliche out there. Peach consistently has a very supportive role in the movie, and Mario is never portrayed as being a bumbling idiot. He's failing the obstacles the first time he sees them because that's how Mario games go. You hand the controller to someone who's never touched a Mario game in their life, and they're gonna die constantly. And it works narratively because Mario's new to this, but despite that, there's no shortage of Mario's trademark acrobatics at show here. So you're not left waiting for him to become the hero. Like he's the way you need him to be the whole movie, but he just has never been eaten by a piranha plant before, you know, or whatever. This isn't like the Uncharted movie where like the characters have no resemblance to the actual video game counterparts whatsoever, with the excuse being, oh, it's an origin story. Like, did we really have to wait until Sonic 2 for Robotnik to get his mustache? I mean, really. So that's great, and Peach doesn't hold him being a newbie against him either, saying things like, well, I grew up here, to make him feel better about struggling at first when she doesn't. The character dynamics free of tiring tropes were all really refreshing to see, and there's no third act breakup scene whatsoever or anything, and Mario's brotherly bond with Luigi is heartwarming. Illumination managed to incorporate the Toads without a hint of minionization, and like I was saying earlier, Mario at points feels like he's just there for the ride. Not to say he never speaks or anything, but he's largely the vessel for the viewer to experience the adventure with, just like in the video games, and I really had no issue with any of the voice actors either. Obviously, Chris Pratt is a different take on Mario, but from the very beginning, I felt like they were gonna tap into some Super Mario Bros. Super Show type inspiration for a movie version of Mario, which I was all for. Even Seth Rogen, who is pretty objectively even worse about putting on a voice for the characters he voices, you know, he brought a lot of really fun energy that came off really genuine anyway. Luigi was just plain well cast, and Jack Black absolutely slew. Any weird feelings you might have about their voices just really quickly dissipates when you see how much of a love letter to the series the whole picture is. And that's about it. It's a phenomenal movie, I think. It's not going to give you a deep, mature, and introspective, life-changing outlook on life like Soul did, or be some super thought-out character study that's beloved because of its S-tier writing like Puss in Boots. It's Mario, and that's all the Mario movie needed to be. Hey, thanks for watching, fellas. It's kind of funny that, like, my last video I was saying I'm going to be making videos, like, faster, so I make more than one video a month. And then immediately after I move houses, I'm living on my own now and whatnot, so that's pretty rad, but it's been a month since that last video now, so let's see if I can get 2 videos out this month. Also, let's grow this channel. Let's try to hit like 500 subs. Like, I could be like one of those YouTubers that's like, I never ask for people to subscribe. If they want to subscribe, then they will, and like I respect that. But also, all the science says if you ask people to subscribe, you'll get more subscribers. So let's hit like 500. That would be pretty cool. Also, I might as well announce here, I'm gonna be trying to make like a YouTube series about every single Sonic game, but it's not gonna be like just a retrospective. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I love the 2D games, and then it hit 3D, oh no, Shadow had guns, what were they thinking, oh, Sonic 06, ugh. You know, because I really like pretty much every Sonic game, and I want to try to spread some positivity for a series that was like historically beat down, you know. Even like Sonic 1 I find is pretty underrated and like kind of almost hated a lot of the time these days, so If you're interested in some positivity towards Sonic for once, then stay tuned for that. Otherwise, I'll be doing more like film analysis type stuff, just like this video. So if you like this video, I don't know, I'll talk about like that Guillermo del Toro's not Pokemon, not Pikachu, freaking Pinocchio. Yeah, that was a great movie, so I'll probably make a video on that pretty soon. So yeah, I want to really step up video production. Anyway, I've rambled long enough. Thank you so much for watching. See you later.